Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Joining me this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-host on the net, and we're reviewing Sam and Mattie Make a Zombie Movie. And my guest host is the one and only award-winning filmmaker, Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
It's spring break, bitches!
Oh, yeah, we have a very interesting and documentary / movie to review. Sam and Mattie Make a Zombie Movie. This is fun. And I'm really happy that Christopher G. Moore is hanging out with me to do this because he has a lot of knowledge about what the documentary is about. Not necessarily specifically, but about making, movies, short movies, hopefully a feature-length movie in the near future. And or two. So there's some insight to be had coming out of the documentary, I do believe, sir. But let's what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impression. We're going to talk about the movie quite a bit, and then we'll wrap things up with our final impressions, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But let's before we do that, let's just see what the movie's all about, because you might not be familiar with this one. Sam and Mattie Make a Zombie Movie. It is available nationwide on cable VOD and digital HD beginning April 2021. So that means it's out now. Directed by Jesse Suckman and Robert Carnival. The cast includes Sam Suckman, Mattie Heartfelt, Peter Farrelly, Jesse Suckman, Robert Carnival, Tyler Schnabel. I feel like I'm going to mispronounce a lot of these. Madeline Brumby and Conan O'Brien makes a cameo appearance. Yes, the synopsis. What happens when two best friends with Down syndrome rally their hometown of Providence to help realize their dream of making a horror film? The documentary Sam and Mattie Make a Zombie Movie captures this inspiring story of unfiltered optimism and barrier-breaking, overflowing with gallons of fake blood and do-it-yourself spirit. Yeah, exactly that and a whole lot more. This is actually a very touching and inspiring documentary, or at least that's my opinion coming out of the gate. So let's dive into this, because Christopher, you brought this one to my attention, and we're fortunate enough to be able to screen it and review it here. So what is your first impression of the final product, the documentary Sam and Mattie Make a Zombie Movie?
Well, first of all, I'm always a sucker for any kind of documentaries about making of films. I mean, I spent a lot of my time just watching behind the scenes on normal stuff, because they even dropped a thing on the making of Falcon and Winter Soldier this past Friday. And so and when I saw the trailer for this, I mean, this seemed right up my alley, just based on how people that when you have a certain passion for horror films or movies in general, and you want to make your own, and it's even more endearing, because a lot of times you see, like, you might see kids like, hey, I want to make a horror film, I want to make this kind of film, and they do it or whatever. And then when you have these two teens or wanting to take their love of horror and what's the MTV show, the Jersey Shore?
Yeah,
those love of two things, and like melding it together and make their own like horror film, and despite the limitations of being born with Down syndrome, they want to make it, and they also have a supportive array of people around them, family who've helped embrace and even film, like their dad filming some of their stuff early on. And it's just great to see these two and their passion, and they're allowed to take that passion and turn it into something, a film. And they had a really successful crowdsourcing campaign, which allowed them to get a lot of eyeballs onto it. Even Peter Farrelly was like an executive producer on it. And they created a finished product, and on top of that, they have this behind the scenes documentary on the making of it from the get go, from them talking about it to pre-production to, even after. This, I think this film is really a wonderful film, a documentary for those that have an interest in filmmaking, want to understand the process behind it, because, a film is more than just its script. As they even have the process of how they came up with a script, working with these two guys and making sure that the script is their idea, riffing at it. Like, what would this character say? And what would this character say? And what would they do here? And they go from that to actually have producers that, like, okay, you only have so much money. You can't pull off fire. You can't do this. So we need to figure out a way to be creative ways of sort of getting around this and these budgetary constraints or location constraints. Like, they had a million different locations. And, whenever I see locations, like we're already doing this for our segment, and Worst Laid Plans, the anthology feature I'm part of, and also Backward Creep, we're looking at locations. And a lot of times I see dollar signs when I see locations. So if you see a script that's got, this has got 30 locations, ooh, that's a lot of money. So it's a really cool way of sort of like showing the process behind that. And also just how, like, sometimes when people write scripts, they sort of write a better version of scenarios based on their own life, or it could just be based on the events in their life, or maybe showing a better version of that. And you get to see that, especially towards the end, where they show segments of the film, and then they stop it and they show some kind of behind the scenes thing of, like, hey, this one kid, Mattie, he's in college, but let's see how, like, the real college is kind of suckier, and he actually gets to do, like, the cool spring break version of it in the film. So yeah, I think this film has so much heart, and or even films that sort of like feel like One Cut of the Dead has that sort of heart, passion behind it.
Ooh, that's a good.
Because you have, like, behind the scenes stuff. But just to see, you can see the love and how they realize how making films is not all happy either. You're sweating, you're getting hot. It's long days, and you suffer through it because you want to make it. And just how everybody comes together to help make it the best it can be. And then also just how in the end, how, like, they made the film and maybe it wasn't the type of success they wanted, but then you realize there's a bigger reason why, this film was made. So yeah, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I think it's just a heartfelt, passionate look at two kids that love horror, and they want to make their own version of these horror films, these zombie films. And you get to see all these people in the community, they embrace them and love them and want to help them make it. It's great when you get to see them premiere it on the red carpet, and they do all these kind of crazy things that I'd love to be able to do as a filmmaker myself. They even showed up on a little snippet from Conan O'Brien, where they got to be on Conan O'Brien, and just see the interaction with him is just great. So, there's really nothing. I mean, there's a few kind of sad scenarios that play out in the film, but for the most part, this is a really positive, life affirming film about, two guys that, most people probably wouldn't think would be able to do this type of thing. And you realize really you can do anything if you put your mind to it, even when you have the limitations of Down syndrome that might possibly limit your ability to do certain things. You can still work beyond that. And it's great to have a supportive array of different people around you to help make that happen. So yeah, I just love this. This film has so much heart and passion, and it's really a love letter to sort of passionate people, and, that you can use your creative to make anything happen.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I really got sucked into their story, these two, and like their parents are involved, and they really don't make that huge a deal about the Down syndrome part of it. It's really about them and their passion and their friendship. I mean, I think their friendship is a very strong core to the story, and it even goes beyond that when it comes down to the actual finale. I mean, there's actually a very powerful and emotional payoff at the end, because once the film is done, and they've done all the festival circuit, which I'm sure you're very familiar with there, Christopher. Then you're done, and the phone stops ringing, and people stop wanting to talk to you about it because now you got to move on to the next one, and they deal with that. But we could have had a very dour, sad ending to that, to the realism of that, right? But yet the realism that comes out of it, these two very optimistic young men, is nothing but love and passion for family, friends, and film in and of itself. So there's so much heart in this documentary that it really blew me away. It's fun to watch the film and see. I really like how they stitch this together. We get a pretty much like half of the movie is building up to the premiere, right? Building up, from the conception to, one of the director, one of the producer directors is his brother, his older brother, and they just want to help him make this movie. So they, it starts with the idea, then it gets into, like you said, the financing of it, and then into then getting the money and then making it, and all the people that are excited and step in to help. It's just so inspiring to see, these dreams come to life and not let, setbacks like you can't do that because, look at how much it's going to cost if you actually want to have explosions and fire. And they're like, oh, so you gotta make, you gotta give and take, and it really is. I mean, it's just so inspiring to watch this team. I think it goes beyond just Sam and Mattie, really, just everybody around them gather and create this film. And then we get to watch the film, which I didn't know we were going to get to do. So that was actually quite a pleasure. But then they went a step further. Like you said, they about 3 times maybe they stop the film and they give a little bit more background that could have been in the front, but they interject it. And I thought that was a really smart choice because we get to see a few of the scenes, really the impact of it, the motivation behind it, and what they, not only just filming it, but there's other satisfactions that you get out of living the fantasy, right? And I was really impressed with was it Peter Farrelly stepping in, because he had there was a couple of recorded real conversations about filmmaking and choices you have to make, and what makes this what they see that's special about the film they're making, and where are the boundaries where they because it's basically a male fantasy film that you gotta do a certain thing, which then they took that information and they added an extra scene, which really actually means a lot. So I'm at a loss for words because it's just, I don't want to say inspiring over and over again, but I think that's the biggest thing out of this. It really is inspiring to see them succeed, even though it wasn't entirely the success they probably wanted, or anybody really wants when you do that. You want to, it's supposed to be never ending, but of course it has a true arc where it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And now they got to step forward, but you feel that they're in a great position to do so. And whether or not it's more filmmaking or just being, really wonderful human beings, either way, it's a plus for them. I love this film, and I think anybody that's interested in filmmaking, I think should watch it just to rediscover if they've lost it, that passion for the filmmaking in and of itself, just the raw passion of wanting to be creative, even if it's not filmmaking. I mean, it applies to anything creative, really, music, I would say, and art, anything. But in this particular filmmaking.
Well, and I think the greatest strength of this documentary is that this could have easily been sort of like, this could have easily been just the main thing. Oh, these two guys have Down syndrome, that and they explain how Down syndrome is or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that they never go into that at all. These are just two. The only limitations that we really deal with is the limitations of budget,
Yeah, that's true.
And making a film from scratch and having to sort of make sacrifices to make it happen, and how you transfer what's written on script to the screen, and casting and all the stuff that goes into it. That's the main thing. So this film was just about like taking your passion and being creative, and taking that creativity and creating something from it, and working through the limitations of that. These two guys are just normal people.
Yep.
They just happen to have Down syndrome, and that's what I love about it, because it's I think a lot of these documentaries sometimes use certain things to sort of like to add more of an emotional punch, that we need to focus so much on that. But no, you just focus on these two kids that are just like, hey, they love horror films, love Jersey Shore, let's make a movie, let's throw lots of blood. Although they keep wanting to throw nudity and sex scenes into it. No, we're not going to do that.
Yes, I thought that was hilarious.
And it is kind of funny when they're drinking shots, they keep talking about it's soda. And that's what it's all about. And I think, and I think, plus I feel like these two kids have better fashion sense than I do. They seem to be pretty cool cats in my book. And I think anybody can relate to these guys if you have a creative bone in your body, and whether you're making a film, you're making music, creating art, any of that kind of stuff is just, when you have a passion and a love for something and you want to put it out there, you do that. And also, it also doesn't, it doesn't sugarcoat it as well. I mean, after the fact, you see, like, once all the sort of like 5 minutes of fame is over, what do you do after that? And then you also realize that they're also not in it for the fame aspect. They're just in it because they wanted to make a movie, and it's also about family and that kind of stuff. And that's the heart of it. But yeah, and it's also a love letter just to the process of making a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You like, if you don't have the ability to have like a huge crane shot, how do you get around that? When you can't when you can't afford having fire on set, what do you go around that? But also you got these two guys never really had any kind of major acting experience outside of their own little short films. They learn how to do stunt work. They do all these different things. They learn in the process of. They learned, like, how do we find these locations that can sort of fit? If we can't get a huge yacht, what do we do? So yeah, it's just a love letter to the whole creative process of making something and putting out there, and just having and also just the great, when you have a wonderful group of people around you that help, they want to help you make it and want to be part of the process, and that just makes the whole process even more fun when you have so many positive people around you, to make that magic happen.
Yeah. What is it? It takes a community, takes a village, right? Takes a village. Yeah. That's I love that Mattie's idea of college life is Animal House. That was hilarious. I don't know if you saw it, but it was straight up Animal House, and that was awesome.
Pretty much, Animal House, a little bit of Jersey Shore, because we even get a Pauly D from Jersey Shore showing up.
Yeah, when they get to the yacht, yeah, definitely, or the
the boat.
The yacht. Well, let's just say it's a yacht. But it's a fairly ambitious script, but and the limitations actually add a lot of heart and humor and just innocence to it. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter, because there's this chemistry between the two of them, right? They're definitely bros.
Broship. They have. I think I have a dad calls it a broship.
Broship, not a bromance, but a broship. I mean, they definitely do, and they are definitely the friendship that they have and the relationship they have definitely comes across, and they are just two of the most likable guys that you've seen, and you get sucked into their passion. You really do, right? You're drawn into their passion to make this movie, and they're relatable. You root for them. I mean, they bring in experiences from high school that I think most people can relate to one way or another, and I think they really do break a lot of stereotypes, if I may say so. Like you said, it's there and they acknowledge it, but they don't make a big deal out of it. It's not made to be something that is they have to overcome to make the movie. It's not. That's not what it's about, like you said. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate that they focused on these two young men who just want to make this movie, and their passion for it, and all the friends and family and people that rally behind them. And it really is just optimistic and uplifting and inspiring. And I really think people should watch this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I was always I don't know if you ever saw the movie American Movie from, I think it was 99. Had a similar thing where you had these unique individuals and they're wanting to make this horror film and stuff. And so I think for me, because it's making a movie is not easy. So, and most people just look at the sort of like the celebrity aspect of it or the fame aspect of it. It's like, everybody thinks they can make a movie, but you also have to sort of like be so passionate about it. You have to put up with so many different situations and challenges and sacrifices to sort of make it happen. And I think you see that process throughout this. And this film is, why am I getting emotional? This film has really invigorated me as a filmmaker, because I've got two projects on the horizon that's like, they could be very overwhelming. And so to see these two young guys, make their dream happen and, and create something, a product out of, and have so many people that are so willing to help them make this film. It's very heartwarming and wonderful. And I think if you want to see something that's sort of like, if you feel burnt out or feel like overwhelmed by life and you keep putting off those creative aspirations or those things in your life, this film, I think you said, is very inspiring in that respect. I think this film might invigorate you as much as it has invigorated me. It just made me realize, I just need to tap into that passion part of it, not so much about the minutia and all the other things that are out there. They're so willing to pull you down. Is just get back to that core passion that, when you were a kid, where you reenact things from films, or you make your own little scenarios in your backyard.
Yeah, you could definitely lose sight of that passion, and it really is inspiring to see somebody recognize it and wield it in such a way. But it also has a really strong family bond, and I imagine that you probably related to that too, because Sam's brother is involved, and the hook, which I don't want to say too much about, but it's really powerful. And I was kind of I wasn't expecting that, and it really hit. It really hit, and it really kind of says what's most important about dreams and life and everything. To be honest with you.
Well, it's just all about connecting. I think we get so lost in the world, especially since COVID, that like you get lost in your connections. A lot of us are very disconnected as it is right now.
No kidding.
And so, and a lot of times we're all just seeking that connection, and it's great to see that through art, it allowed a certain type of connection to happen that he was really searching for all along. It was sometimes it's less about the zombies and it's more about the other things.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts. our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're watching this review, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. We hope you're enjoying it, and many others that we have on the channel and on the feed. If you want to catch that as well, the podcast. If you want to help us out, the easiest and simplest thing to do, and it's also free, is to hit the subscribe button or share with a friend, and that does wonders. And we want to thank you for that. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Christopher, go ahead and give us your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
This film is a joy, and Sam and Mattie are my creative spirit animals. After watching this, I want to have, I really want to have their love for being creative and just seeing the positive in things, even when certain situations don't go your way. And I think for anyone that sort of wants to sort of like pull the curtain back and look and see how a lot of these films are made, especially when it's on a very low budget. A lot of us don't have a huge place to build sets and that kind of stuff. A lot of us have to work within our own limitations and restrictions when it comes to locations or money, and you get to see every element of that process happen, from the creating the script to creating a crowdsourcing campaign to finding locations to auditioning actors to filming to editing. You just see every element of that in the process of this, and you also see how certain elements in the script came about because of their own things in their own lives. How sometimes we use films to sort of like make things a whole lot more exciting than they are in our real life, or more zombie-ish, zombie demon-ish. So yeah, this is a love letter to creativity, to filmmaking, and this documentary could have easily been about so much focused on the limitations of being born with a certain condition, and it was more about being born with passion in your heart to make a crazy zombie film.
Crazy.
And that's no different than anybody else. So yeah, I love this film so much. I don't know. I'd probably give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Sure.
I had I guess some of the effects and stuff I kind of wish had more to it, but I can sort of understand why. But I think overall, I think this is a wonderful film that everybody needs to see if you want to be if you want to feel good and happy and feel invigorated. I think this is a documentary that you need to put in your eyeballs as soon as possible. As for favorite scene, I guess I'll have to say I think for me, as much as I like the filmmaking process and all of it, I loved their sense of dialogue really cracked me up. And I think it works well within their film. I'm not sure I could even like pull off that level of dialogue, because they have this sort of like, I don't know if meta is the right word, but they have this sort of weird way of their characters like saying certain things that just make it really hilarious. And there's like there's previously where he says like, is it okay if I take 10% of the women or something? Just cracked me up. But I think, I don't know, I really love this thing, because there's a character, without giving anything away, even though I don't think it's huge spoilery, but there's a teacher that he has a thing with that gets killed, and then he hooks up with the daughter, which is basically the same actress but playing the daughter, I think. And and the daughter's giving like a weird massage thing, and he's like, "Oh, you massage like your mom, who's dead." And I kept laughing for so long about that because it's just in a normal world or even normal movie world, that's kind of a little bit a little crazy, but it cracked me up so much. I really think Mattie's probably my favorite character in the movie.
Yes.
I kind of like Mattie. I think Mattie is like I just like him. He's just really cool dude. So yeah, I think that'll probably be my favorite thing out of the movie. That still, every time I think about it, it still makes me crack up thinking about it because it's a weird piece of dialogue that's just only in their movie would it make sense.
Yeah, it's only in their movie. I agree with you on every point. This movie really has the heart and really it's inspiring, and you will come to love these two young men and their passion for filmmaking and each other as a, it's not a bromance, but what do you call it? A bro ship. That's going to be hard to keep in mind, but it really is strong, and it really is. I mean, there's a lot to admire. There's a lot to root for. You really come to understand these two young men, and I don't know. I was kind of blown away. I didn't know what to expect, from the whole ordeal, and really came out uplifted, and that doesn't happen a lot in this day and age. So I mean, if you like horror films and you're interested in any way in making horror films, I think you should check this film out. And even if you're not, I think you should check this film out. It really is something quite special, and I'm glad it exists out there, and I think you should catch it. I'll give it a 4.5 as well. My favorite scene, I'm not surprised you didn't take it. My favorite scene's got to be toward the end with the reveal about why Sam really wanted to make the movie, and it just truly was there all along, but totally unexpected, and it really connected. It really, you were saying getting choked up. You really do get choked up because, there's a lot going on there to be choked up about as well. So and it really does. It has this whole film the documentary has a great story arc. It's a really strong documentary. I'm really impressed with it.
Well, yeah, and it has a different format to it than you normally see. You don't normally have documentaries where they show the whole film towards the end and they break it up. So I think it's really hard to sort of find a map to a path to how all this stuff is going to work out for a documentary when you're doing all this behind the scenes stuff. But but then that whole button at the very end just makes it all clear and precise.
Yeah, the way I will admit that the way they integrated the movie, the actual short film, into the documentary, I was very impressed with, because that could have been a disaster, and I think it was incredibly inventive and strong.
Yeah, I think whoever edited this, and I think the filmmaking part of the short film, really well done. Just you understand how you can take scenes and manipulate things and work around certain limitations and make it pretty kick-ass, because the whole cinematography has and editing has a very comedic feel to it. So the filmmakers behind that who helped do that, whether it's the filming or the editing, and I think the editing is the biggest strength of this documentary and really selling what it's trying to sell.
Absolutely. All right, so check it out. It is available now on VOD and wherever you can rent the film. So look for it. I imagine it'll be streaming somewhere. I'm surprised Shudder hasn't picked this up or something along those lines, one of those kind of outlets, because it's ripe for that type of channel. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than go see this film.
Go see it. These kids need as much spotlight as possible, and I hope they get the ability to make another and another and another.
Absolutely. All right, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was so much fun, and thank you for introducing me to this documentary.
Well, I'm glad we got to cover it because I think this is a worthwhile film that more people need to see.
All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.